Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're getting into something pretty serious, a major global concern. The possibility of China declaring war or, invading Taiwan.
Yeah, it's definitely a topic on a lot of people's minds. We're drawing from an analysis called Not Paste, Not Text for this.
Right. And our mission really is to pull out the key factors, the potential scenarios, the likelihood, and maybe even some timelines for you. Just the essentials.
Exactly. Break down what this analysis suggests is going on.
Okay, so let's start with the why. What factors are pushing this potential conflict according to the source?
Well, the analysis brings up a few key points. First, there's this idea that China might see an opportunity if the U.S. looks, distracted.
Distracted, how? Like with other conflicts?
Yes, precisely. Things happening in, say, Korea or the Middle East. The thinking is maybe a stretched U.S. wouldn't or couldn't respond as strongly in the Taiwan Strait.
Okay, a potential window of opportunity, maybe? What else?
Then there's the personal element. President Xi Jinping's legacy. The analysis suggests reunification with Taiwan could be seen as a way to, cement his place in history.
Mm-hmm. A powerful motivator, potentially. And U.S. policy plays a role too, right? That shift away from ambiguity.
Absolutely. For decades, the U.S. had this policy of strategic ambiguity, basically being vague about whether they'd defend Taiwan.
Kept everyone guessing.
Exactly. But there's been a move towards more clarity, suggesting a stronger commitment. Beijing might see that change. Well, it could be interpreted different ways, either as a stronger deterrent or maybe even a provocation.
Right. And specific events must have an impact, too. I remember Nancy Pelosi's visit in 2022 generated a lot of heat.
Oh, definitely. That visit really ramped things up. China's reaction, those huge military drills around Taiwan, that sent a clear message. Coercive measures showing capability.
Okay, so we have these contributing factors simmering. If things did escalate, what form could that take? What are the scenarios laid out?
The analysis discusses a couple of main possibilities. One is a blockade.
So surrounding the island.
Yeah, basically trying to cut Taiwan off economically and physically, stopping ships, controlling airspace, isolating it.
That sounds serious enough. What's the other main scenario?
The other is the more extreme option. Full-scale amphibious invasion. We're talking troops landing, trying to seize control of key locations. A massive, complex operation.
Wow, okay. And anything else mentioned?
There's also mention of potential preemptive strikes.
Against you?
Against U.S. military assets in the region.
Mm-hmm.
Think bases in places like Guam, maybe the Philippines, Japan. Sort of a first move to hinder any response.
Okay, those are sobering scenarios. How likely does the analysis think these are? And is there a timeline?
Well, the experts cited by Global Guardian in the analysis put the chance of a full invasion at around 35%.
Okay, not insignificant.
Not at all. But they actually see a limited conflict, like that blockade scenario we mentioned, as more probable. They estimate that at 60%.
Higher chance of a blockade than a full invasion, then. What about avoiding conflict altogether?
Unfortunately, the analysis pegs the chance of a purely diplomatic resolution quite low, only about 5%.
Not great odds for peace. What about when? Any dates or windows mentioned?
Yeah, there are a few timelines floating around in the analysis. Taiwan's own military assessment apparently suggested China could be ready for invasion as early as 2025.
That's soon.
It is. Then there's 2027. That's the centennial of China's People's Liberation Army, the PLA. Some see that as a significant year, maybe a target date for Xi.
Right. I've heard that 2027 date mentioned before. Admiral Davidson's window.
Exactly. That's referenced too. And Global Guardian itself offers a slightly broader time frame, suggesting a potential conflict or blockade could happen sometime between 2024 and 2028.
So basically, the next few years are seen as a critical period to watch.
Very much so, according to this analysis.
And if one of these scenarios actually plays out, what are the potential consequences we'd be looking at?
They'd be huge. First and foremost, you'd likely have a major humanitarian crisis affecting the people of Taiwan.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Terrible to contemplate. What about beyond Taiwan?
Globally, massive economic shockwaves. Think about Taiwan's role in semiconductors, global shipping routes through the strait.
Huge disruption to trade, supply chains.
Absolutely. And then you'd have the international response. Diplomatic fallout, likely sanctions, potential military involvement, or posturing from other nations. It could really reshape international relations.
Okay, so just to recap for everyone listening, we've touched on the factors driving this tension. U.S. focus, Xi's legacy, policy shifts. We've looked at possible scenarios like blockades or invasion, and even preemptive strikes.
Right. And we've seen the estimated likelihood blockade seen as more probable than invasion, diplomacy less likely, plus those potential timelines clustering around the next few years, like 2025 to 2028.
All carrying potentially massive global consequences, from humanitarian crises to economic chaos.
It really paints a complex and concerning picture. And that brings us, I think, to a final thought for our listeners. Given everything we've just discussed, these potential scenarios, the timelines, the huge stakes involved, what are the really critical things for individuals, for businesses, for governments maybe to be thinking about? What areas need focus or preparation, regardless of which path things actually end up taking?
That's a heavy question to leave people with. Definitely something worth mulling over.